Hello folks, Vertigo Tea Party here, and I just wanted to make a quick-ish video regarding some quick tips that I found while playing. Also wanted to address some things that I see people asking questions a lot in my stream over at twitch.tv/Vertigo Tea Party. And people just saying they're having trouble with on the forums and Discord and all that. Just thought I'd make some general tips to kind of help you out in some trouble spots and highlight some key areas that I think some people miss. First things first, and I've harped on this a lot, but I feel like this is one of the most important aspects of the game, while also being one of the aspects that people understand and implement the least, and that is the camera system and the armories. Now, the way this works, I'm not going to go too crazy in depth in this, but I just want to say that it is critical, especially with dealing with super agents, that you have your security network set up. That means having your security stations and having, at the beginning, you can get away with 2, maybe 3. Actually, I would suggest 3 at the beginning. Try to get 2 to 3 security tables pretty quickly. And make sure you've got cameras highlighting the important spots, in particular your vault and both of your entrances. At the very least, that's where you should have your cameras, if not more. It's also important that your guards are actually at the table because they will not be alerted. So in a very quick nutshell, the way the security system works is there has to be somebody manning the security cameras. And when a threat is spotted that is tagged, and I cannot stress this enough, they have to be tagged, the guards will then react. So if you have somebody come in with a distract tag, one guard will get up as soon as they cross the camera and go distract them. If a agent or anyone is flagged for kill or capture, every single guard in the armory will go to attack them when they go past the camera. So for example, you'll notice I just got attacked here. I did absolutely nothing to deal with it. The game did it for me. As soon as this camera saw the guys that were flagged as kill come in and start shooting my guys, every single guard at every single table got up to come fight. This is absolutely critical to the defense of your base. And again, I'm not going to go too much into it, but the main thing is you want your guards all showing up to defend the point where the agents are at all together. If you just rely on alerts, they're going to just go in there 2 to 3 at a time and get slaughtered. You want them to all go in around at the same time. Obviously, you should use henchmen as well when you get into those nasty fights. But if you have your camera set up and you have enough guards at the tables, also important, then your defense will take care of itself. For the last 10 hours, I almost never have to actually help. Other than Agent X, maybe sometimes. But my guards, my system takes care of itself. I don't even have to babysit it. Also, keep in mind, to keep your guards at a table, you should make sure their needs are met. But we'll go over that in just a second. Let me go over the next thing that I hear people complaining about all the time. We've all gotten into that morale abandon loop, right? Where agent comes in, we weren't really ready for it. There's 40 bodies here in this tunnel, and we keep just having desertion because of the morale drop. And people are like, well, I can't get rid of the bodies. There's a couple problems here. One, you don't have enough incinerators. Now, you don't need this many. I was just goofing off. I normally have about 4 incinerators, maybe 5. This is just me goofing off at this point. You only need around 4. Do not just have 1, because that's not enough. You also want to make sure you have enough workers. If you've got 40 dead bodies and 20 workers, that's not great. Now, I believe others will pick up the corpses as well. I think other jobbers will do it as well. But just make sure you have enough workers. You also, let's say the corpses are here. You want to make sure that they prioritize this job by moving your mastermind over here and then using their very first ability. For Emma, it's pay attention. But this will make sure that this area is prioritized by all minions, so they get in here and get rid of the corpses quickly. But again, I see this all the time, and there was even a big debate in Discord about it. And yes, we've all been there. Believe me, it's happened to me at least twice, where I've had the morale death spiral. But once you have got enough incinerators, and enough workers, it stops being a problem. Even after huge firefights, I rarely get morale desertions anymore because the corpses get taken up quickly. And again, I've only just recently added like half of these, just to goof off. 4 was plenty, and of course it helps that the incinerators are fairly close. If you're finding an area that in particular has a lot of firefights and you're still having morale problems, feel free to do that. But keep in mind the other thing is they might be abandoning because the corpses push them over the edge. What I mean by that is their morale is already low because their other needs are not being met. So therefore, they're already low morale. They come around here, see the corpses, and they're like, nah, I'm out. I'm good, thanks. So make sure all of their other needs are met as well. But those are the two big things with the incinerators. Okay, now here's another thing that a lot of people still don't really understand. I think most people are kind of getting this. It's not very clear, to be quite honest. This is how the super agents work. If you're wondering, why do I keep getting attacked by super agents? Why do I keep getting attacked by super agents? Let me find one that's not triggered real quick if I can. Nope, looks like I'm triggered. Oh, no, here's one. So the way they work is this. Never mind, I'm just ignore that. Go back over here because I actually have this area. So this is how they work. If you see a super agent or symmetry or whoever in an area like this, normally they won't have this icon. If you start doing any mission, they will get the eyeball over the head. That means they're basically watching you. When that mission is finished, regardless of what that mission is or how long that mission takes, they will now be triggered and they will attack your base within about, I think it's a minute. Now you'll get a mission that will allow you to disrupt the attack. I think that just delays them. I've also heard that if you do that, they will come with less tough agents. I haven't tested it myself. I probably should, but that's roughly how it works. So if you just like, oh God, I really can't deal with Symmetry right now. If you see her, don't do any missions in that region. Just wait for her to leave. And she eventually will leave. I believe I heard like once every in-game day, the agents will shift to the region. Obviously, they all stay in their same region. Like Agent X will stay in Patriot areas. Symmetry will stay in the Anvil areas. It's an Anvil, right? Yes. Etc. So if you see them and you just don't want to deal with them, just don't do a mission. However, if you're like, man, I really need this money. I need this money bad. What you can do is start the mission, and when it gets close to being finished, cancel the mission. You still get most of the reward, but it does not trigger that agent. So that's a little cheat, a little trip, or a little trick that you can do if you really, really just don't want to deal with them. Honestly, though, past early game, if you have your defenses set up, most of the super agents really should not be that big of a problem, which we'll go into that in a little bit. Another thing, if you trigger the super agent and you're not ready, let's say Agent X comes in or Symmetry comes in, I'd say like half of the super agents and their cronies will not attack until you attack them. So Symmetry and Agent X in particular will look around. Agent X will drop evidence and all, take pictures and all this other crap. But if you leave them alone, they will eventually just leave your base. Now, obviously, that is not the optimal answer, right? You don't want them leaving with all your gold and your loot, or, you know, Agent X leaving is not a big deal. He'll leave with some heat, and that's not a huge deal. But obviously, it's not optimal. But if it's like, I just don't want my base wiped out today, or even if you just need more time, you're like, oh crap, Symmetry's here. I just set a bunch of guards off on missions. This gives you time.
I've discovered something.
This gives you time to get your guys trained up, get a critical mass of units, making sure your security network is set up, and then whenever you're ready, you can attack them. Maybe you want them to wander around your traps first. Not that it matters, because they'll just disable it immediately, which is its own problem, but you get the drill. So keep that in mind. Don't just see them panic and flag them for kill or capture. Don't capture at all, actually, if you can help it, because for capture is actually harder, because you have to lower their hit points and their skills down to like 0 or 10 or something like that. just kill them until you're more confident. And even then there's not really a whole lot of reason to capture super agents. Well, agents, because I don't think they actually give you intel if you interrogate them. I don't believe. Sorry, I'm just going through my list here. Hotkey, your henchman, and your mastermind. You can do that under options, input edit, scroll down near the bottom. It says select character 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Character 1 is your mastermind. All the others are your henchmen in order. I've just got them set to function keys. This makes it very easy, and you can double tap to move the camera to wherever they are. That is a time saver. Clicking this and then clicking that and then doing this takes too damn long. Hotkey those henchmen and your masterminds. Also, it lets you very quickly check your hit points, because if I had the mastermind in combat and I don't want her to die because I don't really feel like a game over, I can hit that and go, oh, she's fine, and then switch back to whatever I was doing before. So hotkey the agents, or hotkey your masterminds and hotkey the agents. Another thing, I've heard some people say the casino is worthless. That is, or just not very good. That is definitely not true. If you don't want to deal with the agents that come in from the front door, you want to stock up your casino. You want to get your roulette tables. Slot machines in particular are very good. You don't get them until a bit later. But you definitely want the slot machines because they damage the agents' skill. These other things will tell you what they reduce. Resolve, if you're not aware, is probably, I guess I would say, the most important stat to getting them to just go away. If an agent's resolve hits 0, assuming they're not like quest related, if a normal agent's resolve gets to 0, they will leave. So if I've got this, and I've got so many different social minions, deception minions out here, plus all these distraction stuff, that it's rare that agents get in here. Because they also have this zone set up to auto tag for distraction. So as soon as the agents come in, they get flagged, they get talked to, they get flagged, messed around with, they keep going back and messing with the casinos. And by the time, they end up with 0 resolve and just leaving. And they, very rarely even get to the front door. And even if they do, my security system sees that they're tagged and immediately escorts them right back out. And worst case, a guard goes to distract them. If the distract fails, well, one, it's a guard and not a valet. And then the rest of the guards will come in and make sure they are escorted into the incinerator as soon as possible. So make sure you have a lot of items, and again, in the path of the agents, and make sure you have plenty of social minions. You want to have, just to show this real quick, you need valets to man the actual tables and whatnot, because I believe the socialites and the spin doctors will not do it. Only valets will man all of this stuff. So you do need them for this, but you mostly want your socialites and your spin doctors to be the one talking to the agents, because they are less likely to fail. I don't know if you guys saw recently, there's also a patch where mid to low level agents will never attack a social minion after a failed distraction, and higher tier agents have a lower chance of attacking agents or failed distraction, which is good, means less dead random valets. Let's see. Oh, henchmen. Henchmen, super important. I mean, it shouldn't even need to be said, but henchmen, super important, especially again with dealing with so far really the only threat in the game, which is the super agent attacks. Yes, the super agents is what they're called. You want to get them immediately. If you're starting a new game and you're struggling with super agents, Jubei, his quest is the lone swordsman, I believe. Jubei, at least at the time of this recording, is ridiculously broken. The ability to wind walk behind enemies, in particular ranged enemies, and then flow. He is a murder machine. Now, he can die if he's going against a bunch of like good or excellent soldiers. Yes, he can definitely die, but he will fix a lot of your early game super agent problems if you're struggling. And if you want him, I believe you have to get him immediately. I don't know if you can unlock him later. And then for my second one, I got Eli, because he is, again, another good combat henchman. Just with these two plus your mastermind, you're going to be able to hold off a lot of super agent and even regular agent attacks and skirmishes without too much of a fuss. And then of course you'll have your guards in there as well. I will also take a minute to plug myself. Yes, you're not going to get away with it. Twitch.tv/Vertigo Tea Party. I play 4 days a week, or I stream 4 days a week, various games. Come check it out. All right, that's the only plugging I'll do. So also another thing that a lot of people don't realize, heat, or your networks gain heat passively. So even if I sit here with no missions, if let's say I forget this region even exists and I don't do any schemes, you will still gain heat. However, you also gain passive money. So the idea is I guess you're doing like small time schemes. Make sure, am I under attack? She is. She's fine. See, again, this is why I have it hotkeyed, so I can very quickly go to her and keep an eye on her. You can break my butt, but not my champion spirit. No. I'll go ahead and go back here. Now, I'll let them deal with it, just again, show you the importance of getting your network set up. But yes, this is a passive heat generation. Again, it does generate money passively. So keep that in mind. So even if you're not going to do anything, you do need to check back once in a while. If it's not obvious, the little bar is your heat. Obviously, you do not want that to max. The little Wi-Fi looking signals are your level. Oh, look. Another super agent attack thwarted, and I did not even have to do anything because my security network is set up and my guards are happy. Imagine that. Because a lot of people, not to harp on this, but I see this all the time. People are like, oh, just put a bunch of advanced guard stations all over the place and put them everywhere. I'm like, just use cameras and desks. Cameras and desks, baby. That's all you need. And making sure the guards are happy. It kills me when I see people with 6 or 10 different advanced guard stations. I mean, which is, that's fine. It's supplemental, I guess. And it kind of looks cool. But it's just not necessary if you've got your security network set up. Anyway, make sure you've always got enough minions and workers. Keep an eye on this. You don't want this dropping low. I consider low anything less than... early game, it's kind of hard to say. But I would say I would really not want this to ever drop below 30-ish, if at all possible. You can hire now immediately. It's very expensive until you've got good flow coming, like if you have Node 2 networks. But you can just spam the hell out of this, which I'm kind of near max anyway. But you can spam this and get a whole bunch of minions very quickly. You want to have a lot of minions because keeping in mind they've got a lot of jobs to do. They'll be taking a lot of breaks. All of that. So you want to make sure you've got plenty of minions for training, all of that. Early on, I would say you definitely want to build a lot of lockers. Like, you don't have to go crazy. The max of the game is 30 minions. You can't have more than 30. Or, sorry, 300. 300 minions total is the absolute max you can have. And you can see I've got the max right here. It says max, not referencing the mastermind. You don't need to go nuts, but I'd say you at least want to hit 200 max minions as early as you realistically can get away with it. And keep in mind, the only thing you need for minion capacity increase is lockers. They never actually use the lockers, so you can stick them wherever. The beds are just to replenish, but lockers increase your capacity. So again, you don't need to go absolutely nuts with it, but I would really try to have 150 to 200 fairly quick, because especially early on, due to lower tier guards, lower tier weapons, all of that, you're going to need a lot to deal with some of the super agents, Symmetry in particular. Also, early on, you do want to try to capture agents as much as you can. Not super agents, but regular agents, because they're a good source for intel early on. And don't rely on that for too long, because it's not a great source of intel. And you're going to lose guards because, again, it does take longer to disable someone than to kill them. But it's a good source of early intel. So I would suggest doing that very early on, even before you need intel. That way you have a decent amount of it before you get started. I would also very strongly suggest one of your top priorities when you're starting out is getting the network nodes that you have to tier 2. The money increase from tier 1 to tier 2 is huge. So I would say it's much, much, much more important to have less tier 2 nodes than it is to have more tier 1. If you have more tier 1, not only are you making less money, you're also having to micromanage the map a lot more, which due to the current UI is not the most fun thing in the world. So focus less on expanding rapidly and more on getting the research to get tier 2 and getting all the ones you do have up to tier 2 as quickly as possible. And if you need to take an area for money, for a mission, go out there, scout it, do the mission, and then just destroy the node. Now that's just my opinion. Some people go the other route and spread all over. To me, I hate doing that. I hate the micromanagement of the map. It's just frustrating. And I have these open just for fun. And these granted are level mostly tier 3. But even before with just tier 2, I probably could have done just with South America and Brazil. By the way, South America is, as far as I can tell, the area with the highest money payouts. So like, for example, this tier 3 network, the long money one, gives us $700,000. And Africa also has good, not quite as good as South America, but Africa also gives a lot of money for their missions as well. So keep that in mind. Oh yeah, don't go crazy with tier 1 networks, in my opinion. Another thing, and this goes back to the guard rooms, but this goes beyond the guard rooms. Critical rooms, like the guard room, this is actually a bad example. Make damn sure, let me find you a good example. Here we go. Make damn sure that their needs are met close by. So the main things they need are sleep and food. So I went all out here and I put the restaurants right next to them and the bedding. This way, when they need to take a nap, they get up, they go to bed, and then when they're ready to come back to work, they can hop back in. Now, granted, the way this works is somebody else, like a different guard somewhere, is probably coming over here. This slot is not going to stay open just for this guy. But overall, you're going to save time because you want these tables to be manned as much as possible. So make sure that they are, by making sure the guards' needs are met, typically as close by as possible. And this goes for other areas too. For example, the computer room, which I've got both scientists and minions working here, but you can see I'm making damn sure that my minions' needs are met. I got plenty of places to eat, plenty of places to sleep, so they can, go to bed and potentially go back. And again, that's not, it's fairly useful because, again, the way the clock out system, I think, works is, minion gets up, goes to bed, another minion somewhere will come to replace them. It's not like this minion's job is just to do this. So this might not help tremendously, but it's still a fairly decent idea to have these kinds of setups, especially if it's going to be like you have a few scientists and they're just dedicated to doing this. But yeah, good idea to make sure that their needs are met close by and not having to go, 2 floors down to get to bed or have some food. Doors. Honestly, I wouldn't bother. Doors feel more of a hindrance than a help. The problem is, depending on the level, if you have a high level, you think, okay, you want it to be high level. The problem is, every time your own minions go in and out of the door, it takes longer to go in and out. I can understand that as a balancing thing, because it also takes the forces of justice longer for them to open it. But in this game, the length of time isn't as important for agents. It's like you don't have to, and even just when you wanted to drag out the time for agents. And this one, that's not as big of a deal. So having them waste their time opening a door isn't a huge thing. And over time, this distraction of an extra 2 to 3 seconds is going to cost you more than every now and then maybe getting useful versus an agent. Some rooms I use it in, rooms that have no heat, I never use them. And then rooms that have heat, sometimes I'll use them, sometimes I'll not. I'm actually slowly just moving to never using them. The other big bad thing about doors is if a fight breaks out here, a lot of these guys will just stand in here with their guns and they won't shoot because the door's closed. I feel like overall, doors are actually a detriment to you. Maybe have one in the prison to keep escapees from getting out, or at least making it take longer. Other than that, I really wouldn't waste my time with doors. Personally, I think they're a waste. Ironically, one of the only places I use them is for like trap holes. Oh, make sure your guards are armed. Here's an important thing to note about the way weapons work with guards. Guards will only pick up one weapon. Once they have that weapon, they will never drop it unless they die. There is no way that I have seen or read about to make them change. So if you use like a tier 1 club and, you know, Sarah Baradies picks it up, if you get the new upgrade with a pistol or a rifle or a staff, she does not give a damn. She has bonded at the flesh with that club and will never get rid of it. This causes several problems. One, depending on how long your guards have actually managed to survive, they might be running around with low tier weapons when you've got higher tiers available. Another problem is stun weapons. If you have a stun weapon, again, they can only carry one weapon at a time. So they might pick up a stun weapon and then be using that in a firefight. Now, I don't know for sure if the stun weapons do a little bit more damage. They might, I don't know. So it might be better than them having nothing. But far more often than not, the way I play, I'm doing kills, not captures. Like not even close. Like in early game, I do a lot of captures. Other than that, it's mostly just kill them. I have enough intel. I have enough other things. I don't need to capture them. So I have literally zero stun weapons whatsoever because I do not want them to waste a slot on doing that. I just want them to get weapons. Other than that, the only way... See, I've still got people... here's the other thing that makes this problem even worse, and I didn't know this until recently. When a guard dies, they drop their weapon. If another guard is nearby and doesn't have a weapon, they will pick that weapon up. So God only knows how long that guy's club has been in my base. Because I don't even have... Do I? I actually might have some... No, I don't think... I got rid of all my tier 1 weapon racks like hours ago. So they are still carrying around tier 1 maces. This is something has got to be fixed by the developers. Like, that's not acceptable. They should upgrade when they get the chance. Like, that's insane. But it's something you need to keep in mind. There's a few ways to solve that, which we'll get to just a second. But remember, they can only pick up one weapon. So if you just got clubs, but you think you're going to have pistols very soon, maybe only make one club dispenser and make everything else pistols, for example. But yes, keep that in mind, and especially when you're planning about how many stun weapons you want to put down as well. Speaking of, if you go to... Actually, let me show you the other way to get there. Sorry. Go to Minion Training and then Minion Manager. One thing you can do, let's say... Who's that guard with the mace? Oh, he already got up. I don't know where he went. Where is he? Oh, there he is. Gertrude Lee. So I press M to bring up my menu manager. I'm going to sort. I'm going to filter by... I forget what type they were. I'm going to look for Gertrude Lee. Now, obviously, I can also execute them. The problem is I think they still drop their weapon. So what you can do, you click the name, and this sets the priority job that they pick. Like, so for example, if you want them training or working the security desk, you can do that. Or you can do this, assign them to schemes. And remember, once a minion leaves your base to do a scheme, they will never come back, and they should take their weapon with them. So it's a bit arduous, but if you see a minion with an old weapon that you want to get rid of, go to the Minion Manager, find them, select them, and then tell them to prioritize schemes. And by the way, this is kind of a good overall system to make sure that you have certain jobs doing certain things. So for example, later on, your scientists, your regular scientists, will never be researching anything. So you might want to filter them out and do what I've done here, and I've got them prioritized to work the control room for intel research, and this ensures that they do. And you might want to go to the next level and prioritize minions that complement their traits if that works for you. Early to mid game, I wouldn't waste my time, because especially your guards and ironically your valets are going to have a pretty short lifespan. As you progress though, they'll tend to live longer because you become stronger and stronger, and the agents in comparison don't get that much stronger, so you lose less and less guards. And in particular, your scientists should almost never be getting killed. They should be way off somewhere else, not really getting into firefights. So scientists in particular, you can go ahead and go through here and find the things that they're good at and assign them to that. But honestly, I never really go to that point. I never get to that point. It's a little bit too much for me, especially for, again, they're a little bit more disposable, so I don't really go that far. But it's something you may want to give you, help to kind of give you a little bit more edge. Another thing, and this is another bad timing on this example, don't overbuild your vault. I see people going crazy with the vault. It's like, oh, it says my vault's full. I need to bring more vaults.
To land yourself in Symmetry sights.
Did I build a second vault? Oh, no, there is. I'm going to pause because there's something I want to show you in a minute. But don't overbuild your vault. And again, this is a personal preference thing, but my opinion is I would rather be spending my money and expanding my base, training with new minions, building things, whatever it is, than spending money and precious space. Again, early on, space is going to be a bit more precious, depending on which map you play on in particular. But I would much rather that space for other things than storing more and more gold. What's the point? Spend your money, expand, build more rooms, do whatever you can with your money. Spend it. Don't sit on it. Now, later on, you have to build room for more gold, because research costs like 1 million gold, and you can't do like building and like pay for it as you go. You have to pay for it in one lump sum. That's why I'm building a bigger vault. But initially, like for the longest time, my vault was probably about, I can't really show you very good, but around that. Hold on, can I do it this way? That might make it more obvious. Nope, it doesn't help. But yeah, it was about this. I think I could store about 100,000 gold. I think it was about 100,000 gold. Maybe a bit more than that. And, you can build a little bit as you go. Like if you just get tired of hearing the message. And obviously you don't want to sit at 100% while you're making a lot of money out in the world map, because it just disappears. So that tells me either your vault does need to be a little bit bigger, or you need to be better at spending. If you need to, pause the game, build stuff out, build more power, do whatever. Because, this is pretty late game. And these are the highest tier generators. So you're not going to overbuild on something like power. So feel free to go completely ballistic on stuff like that. And this, I went crazy with science to build it quicker. Again, use your money. Don't just sit on it. I think it's, other than just to look at the shiny bars of gold, I think it's pointless to spend a lot of money and space early to mid game on gold. Spend your gold instead, even if it's on traps, which kind of suck. Here's a trick, and I want to show you guys this. This is a trick to get around the limitation that you can't build cameras or certain things like traps in rooms other than corridors. So what I've done here, and I'll show you do it again. If you want to put a camera somewhere in another room, the vault is a perfect example. Go to corridor, and then in the vault, you're going to need a little extra room. So but like a 2x4 room. It doesn't have to be exactly that size, but it needs to be at least 2 deep. But 4 gives you enough. You can see kind of gives you a little bit enough like spread, so you can see most of the room. So you can have your camera in here. I've also done that up here. This is maybe almost as good. Almost. Revert that. Up here. This actually has been really good. Later in the game, you'll have issues with super agents coming in gung-ho and soldiers coming in the front door and just starting to blast away. Having a camera up here is very, very useful. And again, it makes so much of my security hands off that a lot of times I don't even realize I'm being attacked. And by the time I look up here, my guards are coming back for a good rest, and there's just body bags full of bad guys. I mean, well, good guys, I guess, up front. So that's another really good trick to get things like traps, but in particular, cameras. One of the, and I'll say this too very quickly about traps. Traps are not useless, but traps are very weak. Traps are quite weak. This is my kind of example, like test run of traps to go together, and you can do some fun things with getting your traps to go together. Like this is the boxing gloves. It knocks them into a soap, which makes them go back further. They hit the darts early so that the dot can do time over damage. Then there's a wind fan here. They get hit by the knockout gas. They'll go up here. They'll hit the bumper. The bumper will bump them over here. And then this bumper will knock them into more knockout gas, which I should probably make that something else. And I've done different variations of this. Like you could take these bumpers out and it would knock them straight into the shark tank. Things like that. So, and it's fun. It is fun to do. And, you know, if you don't go valet and casino heavy, you could potentially do something. Because one thing I've noticed is agents love to go in the first door that they find. Like they just absolutely fascinated with coming in here to find my evil lunchroom and evil nap nook. They will always go in there. So I would think you could probably build, like if you wanted to like build a trap section off of here to let them just fart around with and waste their time and take a little bit of skill and hit point damage. That said, traps are very weak. Against super agents, they are pert near useless because the super agent and their squads can chain disable them. There's some scenarios where they're okay because, you know, while they're disabling traps, they can't be fighting. So if your guards show up while they're disabling traps, they can get a bunch of free hits in. Sometimes you can bait them with like your mastermind and drag them through traps, and they'll be in such a hurry that they won't disable them. But even then, the damage and whatnot that they do isn't fantastic, and the cooldowns are long. So I'm hoping we get some buffs to it. So don't waste a lot of time with traps. Again, they can be fun and they can do a little bit of damage just to kind of soften them up a little bit. But they're not super great. I wouldn't go crazy with them. Again, doesn't mean don't use them. But if you're early on and you've got a limited budget and limited space, don't really waste a lot of time with them. The last thing I'll say on this short 40-minute video, Jesus Christ, was that feel free to experiment. Like too many people are just don't experiment. They're like, I wonder if this would work or whatever. Try it. Try the thing. If it doesn't work, then okay, it didn't work. And even if something doesn't work that you want to try, at least you might learn something from it, right? It's like, well, this didn't work, but it didn't work, but you know, I found out, I learned something new. I found out this cool little trick that I didn't know about. Feel free to experiment and mess around with stuff. Like that's what this whole trap area is for. This isn't for usefulness. This is just to see if I can find ways to make, you know, the traps, you know, better. And I found ways to make them better. If they go through this whole trap thing, they end up pretty hurt and, you know, distracted for a little bit. By the way, this camera is going to see them, and the guards, oh, look at that. All the guards are getting up. Now, these are Symmetry's minions, so they're going to be ridiculously badass. I'm not going to send my henchmen in. Let's just see. This is the last tip, by the way. Experiment. Feel free to experiment. Don't be afraid to experiment, and don't be afraid to fail in your experimentation. A lot of your experiments won't work. That's okay. That's totally fine. Nothing wrong with that. Also, keeping this in mind, I think most people know this, but guards who have guns, if the agent gets into their melee, they will not use the gun. They will switch to melee, which will be their fists. So this is actually not ideal. What you would really want here, in a situation like this where you know they're going to show up in the vault, is a more wide open hallway. This was a mistake. I should not have done this way. Because see, now we got all these guys back here with guns, but they can't get in here. So now this is in favor of the agents, because now they can only fight my guys just a couple at a time. Now granted, we're still getting some dudes with shots off, but we're losing more guards here than we should if I would have built this better. So again, feel free to experiment, do something different, something weird, something wacky, something cool, And again, even if it fails, you might learn something new. And that happens to me all the time where I try something, it doesn't work, but I'm like, but I learned something new that I can use to my advantage.
Pretty well. This time.
So again, we lost a lot of guards, and again, because of my poor design here, and me trying to squeeze that in there, and I should really redo that. And I didn't use my henchmen, which have made that a lot easier. And obviously I'm pretty late game, and just avoid symmetry, by the way. Avoid anvil areas if you can. Early game. She's going to get nerfed, though. I have zero doubt she's going to get nerfed. It's not even her, it's her minions. Her minions are way overpowered. Anyway, this video has been 40 minutes long. Holy crap. Thank you guys for watching. I would definitely like to know in the comments below if you learned anything new or useful, or if this was the most worthless 40 minutes of your life. I hope some of these tips would help folks, because again, I keep seeing the same thing with either gameplay or people asking the same questions, or in my opinions, making the same mistakes. And I'm not, the best player of this in the world, but I've put a decent amount of hours into it. And I feel that other than my base being hideously ugly, that a lot of this stuff has really made the game a lot easier for me. And a lot of it's not evidence, because honestly, the game's not super great at telling you everything that you need to know. But it's a learning procedure. And notice, by the way, these agents are leaving. They never even got into my base because they got distracted so much. Their skill and resolve dropped, and they are just going out, and they might not even remember the time. They might even remember they were here. But anyway, last plug. I said I wasn't going to, but I lied. Twitch.tv/Vertigo Tea Party. Make sure to check it out if you would. I do stream 4 nights a week of various games. So yeah, but most importantly, I really want to know if this video helped you guys. So I want to see that in the comments if you would. And I will see y'all next time.